Good morning, Quasar Markets Live. Happy FOMC Day. I'm here with my main man, Stephen Big Beat. Or Steve, how you doing today?
FOMC Day. I like that. It's just like we get birthday candles and the cake, and yeah, look, it's going to be very simple. The markets have already factored in a cut of 25 basis points. But here's what's interesting to me. The talk on the street around it is that this is the end. Where if there is more
Right.
cuts in the future, it'll be more precise, more let's say more uh, maybe every other month, maybe not so much once a month, and to be telegraphed. And I think you're going to see, and I've heard this, from the inside channels that a lot of what's happening on, and Mike Timros being one of those from the Bloomberg, saying that look, uh, the talk from Powell is going to be a little less bravado. It's going to be more, hey, this is where we are and we need to think about the economy. We might have seen, and I said this a million times, quoting Greenspan, irrational exuberance. These numbers of our stock market compared to the world is just out of whack. And when you look at it from the perspective of foreign accounts and foreign trading, um, our separation is the highest in history,
Right.
meaning that our stock market is on an all-time high and other countries are falling apart. And that's not just quite the case. Yes, the U.S. economy is doing good, and yes, Germany and UK are doing really bad. And I saw this morning that London rents are up another 11.2% this month. Uh, in 1 month, rent is up 11.2% in London. So things are not as quality there, and you're seeing movement around Europe, which is cool, the Shenzhen province. Um, Here's what I want to see. I want to see a couple of things today from Powell. I want to see the question being asked. Okay, you've now lowered rates. Your mandate is 2%, 2% inflation. Your mandate is to quell the crowd, shall we say? All right.
Yeah.
Do you feel that we are close enough that you can stop? And I think the answer is going to be yes from him. Yeah, you know what? We didn't quite get the 2%, but we're okay. That's why we're cutting again. Maybe inflation is rearing its ugly head a wee bit again. That's okay, right? But we don't want people hurting. We want the markets pushing. We saw this with politics, right? Okay. The second thing I want to see is he's going to have to change his tune on cryptocurrency, because we have a new president now
Well,
who
he already
President
did. I mean, he already did.
did,
He
but
came
he's
out and
still
called
not quite
Bitcoin
there yet.
digitally. Right. I don't think he'll get too far. I mean, my takeaways today will be: does he seem to be amenable to the new administration a little bit more? In other words,
He
the
has
way
to
that he
be.
talks around the market, well, I know, well, yes and no. I mean, again, he can fight this out. I mean,
That's
they
true.
can play this over the long haul.
But he will lose. He will lose. As the chairman of the Federal
Yeah. Oh,
Reserve,
I mean,
he
the
will lose.
president's going to win. I mean, it's
Correct.
any way you look at
As
it.
the voters will fit.
But if he wants to be a thorn in his side, he can be. But is it worth it? We've seen the political careers of many of the SEC. If you look at crypto again, two things yesterday that I do have to bring up right off the bat. Number one, a bunch of organizations racing to write a strategic Bitcoin reserve policy for our government. I just had a laugh because it's
Yes.
Cynthia Loomis has already written one, and she's a senator. So let's just look at hers,
Right.
because she's the one that actually can introduce it into the Senate. Um, and then, secondly, though, there was a very negative crypto commissioner, Caroline, who was up for reelection or a reappointment and was being pushed by my outgoing senator here in Ohio, Sherrod Brown, who was trying to
Right.
push in the nomination before he leaves. And the Republicans were able to hold it off. She will not be back, and it really sways the way that the SEC is going to look at crypto without a doubt. It was a very positive
The
day.
SEC will not be the same. It is not your father's SEC.
Yeah. And and that that was sort of the last worry that people had was she could be a thorn in the side. Her gone makes it easier. Steve, as we look at treasuries, we did break that 4.6 here on the 30
Yeah.
year, 10-year back at 4.41. Like you said, I mean, this has been a pretty as telegraphed a move as we've pretty much seen by the Fed so far. So if it plays out, it should be a big nothing burger. I just, I just wonder to that, are people, is the disconnect between retail and institutional that far? And one of the things I wanted to bring up today that I have on our list here to talk about is the all-time high enthusiasm of retail traders. And where
Yeah.
we're getting that number is if Bank of America did a survey of their, high wealth individuals and all their investors, I guess. And what came back was they are at about 4% in cash reserves, one of the lows that we've seen in a long time.
And
And
if this pullback happens, that I say, they're going to have less cash because they'll be trying to buy every dip, and they're going. That's what the. I don't know how else to explain it. You said it right, Hondo. That's exactly right. That's what the big boys do. They suck all the cash from retail and say thank you very much, and they play around with you, and then when you have no more money to put in, they take it all, and then make you go back to work, and you got to go get more cash again. Like that's that's the never-ending
yeah,
story of
and that's
Wall
why I wanted
Street.
to bring it up. I moved it a little bit up our list here. I have what we're going to talk a little bit about this morning, but I wanted to move that up the list because I do want to warn our viewers that, this all-time enthusiasm, don't get me wrong, like as you said, things are better here in the US than they are in many places in the
Yes.
world. There's a lot of reasons to be happy right now. But what you need to understand is when people like Warren Buffett and Bill Ackerman and others, Ray Dalio, tell you that they're keeping money on the sidelines. These are some of the smartest macro investors in the history of investing. Never mind our man Big Beat, who's been yelling at it for the last couple of months too, and really been banging the drum here over the last week or so that, we're
One of
at that.
one
And
of the ratios that I like to look at, I know people always say PE ratio, but price to book ratio. And I'm going to send this to you, Howard, so you can probably show other people what I'm talking about. You should have it now. Price to book ratio just blew past March of 2000's high. Um, the I don't even know how to explain this. Price to book. Book value is the book value of a company. That's what the value of the company is if they were to be sold, right?
yep,
And the price divided by the book is when I look at it from that perspective, should be roughly around 20-ish. It's over 50. 50. I mean, this thing is telling us that companies are not worth it. That we are, I mean, Tesla is not a $4 trillion company. I don't know where we at now. $1.3 trillion. I don't even know what Tesla's worth now.
oh yeah, 3 point. No, Apple was 3.4 yesterday. I think when I was looking at it, I would have
So
to.
market cap of Tesla is now 1.54 trillion. Okay, you can say that Tesla is a company that is a software company. You can say, okay, it's tied to Elon Musk and that he's close to the president, so the president's going to give him all that he wants. Eventually, fish, fowl, and friends are all stink after a while, and I don't care how much he brought to the president. The White House is a very small place, and he ain't gonna be able welcome all the time into the White House. They're going to say, okay, enough, Elon, right? Go build your rockets. And now, of course, I like Elon. I like what he's doing.
Right. And so I guess what you're pointing out is there's a difference between, I would almost look at it from the world of options. There's the intrinsic value, which
Right.
is the actual book value. If you took these companies today and you said, "Hey, Steve, you have all the money in the world. You can buy what you want. This is the book value you buy it for," versus the extrinsic value is the people saying, "Yes, Tesla, he's going to have a direct line, the bat phone into Mr. Trump, and they're together gonna,
Yeah.
do their Mr. Burns thing."
Well, let me put it this
Um,
way. You go into a car dealership and you see the fancy, funny looking Ferrari that you really can't stand. You got to have it. Guess what? That Ferrari is $250,000. If we were to put this in today's numbers, okay, in today's numbers, you're now paying a little over 1.3 million for that Ferrari. That's how out of whack we are. Does that help people understand how out of whack we are?
right.
That's
No,
how far
I
out of
mean,
whack
I'm
we are.
with you. That's I talk about these valuations and looking for EPS, laggards, so to speak, where they're not at 40x, or you get into technology and they're over 100. That's crazy to me. Like, that's it's that the unfortunate part of supply and demand that doesn't take, common sense into play a little bit, unfortunately. I will say that we do have a decent amount of pre-market movers here. I did want to get into first thing this morning here. On the bigger caps, Tesla on the downside, like you're saying, down about 2.78%. Jabril had a nice beat on earnings. They are up 10% here this morning,
I love
making a
Gabriel.
nice move. Looks like they want to get a little bit of energy moving behind them. You've talked of them in the past. They're sort of a picks and shovel company, right? When it comes
Right.
to
I
um,
love Gabriel. They're one of the companies that have a moat around them too as well. While I don't like the fact that they don't pay a dividend, I do like them as a company. They're a very small company when it comes to energy, the picks and shovels, I always say. But at $15 billion, they're a company that could actually be acquired. I've said that for a while, and I easily
they
can
do
see
pay,
that.
just so you know, an 8-cent dividend.
Okay, okay, probably.
Which is not,
Mhm.
I mean, based on the price of the
Yeah,
stock at 133, you might as well
yeah,
just,
it's
send me a
worth. Yeah.
stamp. Send me a stamp so I can send somebody some mail.
Send me a mug and T-shirt in the mail.
Yeah, yeah.
But look, J Brill is the company. I need to take that.
You got it, sir. So Steve's gonna step off here. I'm gonna put up a static look at his lovely face here until he's ready to come back. Give me 1 second here to do that.
I'm good, Howard.
Oh, never. Oh,
I'll
okay.
talk to
Oh,
you
then I
later.
don't
Okay.
have to cover your face up there. Um,
Yeah.
so Jabril having a nice start to the day. Another beat here is Birkenstocks up about 9.53% here this morning. And I started to look at this chart. It's a decent looking chart on the daily thing here. Daily
It's very
chart here,
simple.
you gap
People
down.
people are people are eating less. They're walking around, and you know what? Birkenstock is those shoes, those sandals. I don't like them. I don't wear them.
Yeah,
I
I'm
wear
not
it
a
to my nose.
fan. Although I had a Nike like version of them that I liked for a long time, but they exploded finally. But I did see their CEO on, one of the shows a few weeks back, and what they talked about is the loyalty of their consumer and
100%.
that
Yeah.
they don't the average Birkenstock like wearer has 5 pairs of them. Yeah, they don't just have one. They have, their dress Birkenstocks, their play Birkenstocks, I guess. I don't know. But up about 10% along, 11.4% now. So some of the movers. Expedia having a nice little day, up about 2.73% here this morning. On the downside, we did have an earnings miss here. It actually was an earnings beat, but lousy forward guidance here on Heiko Company, HEI. They're down about 6.5% this morning. They're in the aerospace and defense sector. General Mills, Steve, they had an earnings beat, but as we talked about, their forward guidance, you've been all over it, would be a company that would not give a great amount of, would not give very positive future guidance based upon the new healthier U.S. that we're starting to see.
Right.
They lowered their fiscal year outlook here, and as a
That's
result,
exactly
then
why we have theses. It's look, I can't drive this home enough. It is literally about common sense. People don't understand the markets are not a common sense will tell you, you can be ahead of the game or you can chase. And I don't like
right.
being, I don't chase, right? So we've talked about the weight loss drugs, but it's always the things that are around it that would make sense. We talked about restaurants forever. We've been dead right on the restaurants, right? I mean, look at cake right now. Um,
Yep.
you talk about it from the perspective. I was at a Chinese restaurant, I guess it was Tuesday, and look, I went to go order food, and I took most of it home. I looked around, and people just were not eating the normal amounts of heavy. And you could tell who was on the weight loss drugs. I mean, for those of you who don't know, I'm happy to explain that I am as well, and I've lost 75 pounds on it, right?
Yeah.
I don't have that same desire to go to the restaurants and eat a lot of food and spend a lot of money, right? I don't have that same desire to, and you know what? That's really affecting places. But I will say this much: while it's hurting healthcare companies now because of the insurance having to pay for the Wegovy, Zepbound, Ozempic, and that, I think there's nothing better than having a healthy country. And that to me tells you everything. We're gonna have less people having heart attacks, less people. The obesity is not. I mean, you said this yesterday, and we talked about this. Obesity for the first time in this country, the United States, is actually down for the
Yep.
first time in over a decade. That's a great thing. You didn't. If you told me that 3 years ago, I said no. Probably more McDonald's French fries are eaten, right? Probably more going out to eat, and we're not seeing that anymore. We're seeing
Yep,
an
definitely.
actual
That's good
change
to,
in health.
without a doubt. I will say, getting back to General Mills a little bit, is a takeaway that I had there and looking at their segments was that their pet segment rose 5%. So, we've talked about it. Americans, you and I are both guilty of this, spoiling Bailey and Moochie here. And
Yeah.
something just to keep an eye on because I know Chewy's got earnings coming up here. For those that are looking for things that could be in an upward swing, I do think, and we saw that vet company, right, that took off a couple of weeks ago. So we are seeing that there is, that appetite, no pun intended there, for dog food companies and the like. So just a takeaway there that I had that was a little bit different. This morning there are quite a few of the morning pumpers here on deck. PLRZ was one of them here that jumped up about 164% here, holding up pretty good after the pullback. It has that sort of setup that you could see this at 9:30 be a pumper, one to keep an eye on, playing right around with the VWAP currently. If you could get a decisive move here through that 290, you've got room back to 4. So PLRZ is one I'm keeping an eye on here this morning. CJTX, which looks like it wants to run right now at $1.26, broke that important dollar mark again. A lot of these we're looking for it's based around their NASDAQ listing. And if I break that down, and you could talk maybe a little bit more about this, Steve, right? But if you're an institutional holder of a stock that might get delisted, you have an impetus or a reason to buy more of the stock or to see that stock price get moved up, right?
Or by the company. If you're
Yeah.
a major shareholder and you can afford it, and you see a company falling apart like this, I could definitely easily see them getting bought out. Think about it from the perspective of maybe a Pfizer or companies like that, going, okay, you know what? Maybe their drug didn't do so well, but I certainly want their doctors. I really want
Yeah.
their chemists. I really
Their
want their
infrastructure, their
researchers.
people,
Yeah,
their IP.
yeah.
But yeah, and you can see it moving up to 130 here. It just hit. So definitely moving. And could be a runner. We've seen these medical ones, tonics the other day, shot up. It did. I will tell you, it has retraced all the way back to that 30-cent level. Moved up to $4, $5, and then back down. So this could be a runner. And another reason I pointed out is because when you see one of these healthcare runners, then you find all of the Wall Street bets people and stuff start to look for the next one. This looks like it wants to run. I'm not going to lie to you. So CGTX, keep your eye on that. VSTE is another one here. It looks like it's fading off, but again, these are the ones that you see the secondary pump come usually at the 930 spot. So keep this on your radar too. VSTE. This would be one if it can break this $3 level. I like it. It's got to break $3 VSTE. Another one that ran real far. I don't know that it still has the legs here, but actually decent looking short-term chart. LITM, Snow Lake Resources, an agricultural company, moving up tremendously, up 231% here today, and still hasn't hit that dollar mark. So this is one trying to make that move back to $1 here. So keep an eye on that, LITM. And lastly, TCBP, which after making the one pump has sort of consolidated here back in this 80-cent zone. So again, another one looking to make that move. And this one, what I like about it a lot is the VWAP sitting right at that dollar level. We know how these things like to run once they break that dollar. So you can wait for some real conviction on this, see it move up from the 83 cents it's at now to the dollar. You could play it from here to there, or you could try to wait like I will for the conviction for the breakthrough $1. So we do have some pre-market movers here, Steve, like I've talked about. IPOs are back, Steve. We are leading the world in IPOs again. We saw a couple of good ones back. You talked about this. It's come a little quicker than you had sort of
Yeah,
mentioned. Is that a surprise, or do you think they were
it
all
is a
lined
little
up,
bit.
ready to go?
Yeah, an IPO, when you have this many IPOs, is a sign of a very strong market. That means that companies that, new companies, startup companies, can feel they can go to the market to get money, and we haven't really seen that in the last few years. The IPO market's been kind of dry, and yeah, to me, this that's really good actually. So I saw it coming, but definitely didn't see it this fast.
Yeah, and it was good to see, again, we overtook India and, China had been the two really that had surpassed us. And now, again, we take over that for top mark. And, and it was good to see some of them have had some positive results on their, on the launches. So it's not been as negative as we had seen previously. Steve, we got to talk more about that disconnect, like we said. Yesterday we mentioned it, both of us. The S&P has had a decline in the advanced decline for now 11, going to go on 12 days, right?
Mm.
And what we are seeing is that the Mag 7 slash Awesome 8 are really propping up this market. You know, you've been warning about it. It seems like we're going to see a tectonic shift here, don't we?
You know, when I talk about sell-offs and I talk about pullbacks and things of that nature, I'm usually in warn mode, right? I'm usually saying I'm usually the guy out there. I was on Twitter Spaces yesterday, and I talked about this, right? That hey, look, our numbers are way out of whack, and I just got one guy obliterated me saying, oh, that's silly talk. We're gonna go higher, and the markets can do whatever it wants to do. Okay, yes. Guess what? And you can talk about it. I'm not pounding the desk yet. I'm not saying, bam, hey, guess what? The markets are going to sell off and this is what's going to happen and the world's going to help. No, it's not the way. We got to have pullbacks in order to be, if we really are going to have a healthy economy, we have to have pullbacks. We got to have people taking some money off the table. And we're not doing that. Look, when hedge funds don't have more money to put into the market. There's only one place that has the money to put in the market. It's retail. And guess what? Retail money is about 4%, almost all in. They're almost all in. They don't have
Yeah.
much more to put into it. And Ray Dalio and Warren Buffett and these guys are sitting on the sidelines laughing their behinds off, going, "Guess what? I do, and I'll wait till I can wait you out."
Yep.
So
Yeah,
when you look
I
at
guess the only thing that I would say as the contrarian, or the one contrarian theory that I've seen and looking at this that
okay,
I could see is that, the Dow's pulled back significantly. All these other companies are pulling back. Is that maybe we see another surge up by the smaller caps? Do small caps take another run? Do some of these and then the Mag 7 really cool off? And that's sort of a slick cyclical change, but continued bullish view. It's the only one I've seen that holds any water. What do you think about that sort of theory to it? That I know what you're gonna say, but listen. These are the things our viewers are reading about. We've got to bring them up and explain to them whether we think they hold water or not.
I'll tell you what I was told many, many, many years ago when I first started out. Steve, if you can learn futures, you can learn anything. If you can learn commodities, you can literally learn anything. If you can learn to prognosticate the market better than everybody else, that's what futures are. You'll do better than almost everybody out there. All right. And the one thing that Jesse Curry, God rest his soul, Jesse Curry Commodities, told me, this guy was a Green Beret, and I miss Jesse a lot. He told me one thing that I'll never forget. He said, "Look, the markets do one thing. They always come back to roost, to home, no matter what happens. No matter what happens in the world, markets come back to roost, right? Meaning that if a market goes too far up or too far down, the market always comes home to roost. All right. So, do you think the market is undervalued or overvalued? And is it time to go back to roost? And the answer to me is it's time to go back to roost. Look, we had some a jolt to the market with the Trump being winning an election. We've had a jolt to the economy because we've had some guidance back in the summer saying, hey, things are getting better because of AI, quantum computing, all the theories that these have been talking about. But we've already done that. We've also talked about the Fed going to cut rates. They did that. The market has priced all of that in. All right, so tell me what the next thesis is, and trust me, that's how I live my life on this. I don't see one. Okay, I don't see I've been screaming about on Schwab, tech, tech, tech. Guess what? The Max 7 has exploded. Okay. But how much more can they explode? Okay, yes, the market can say more irrational than we can say rational. All right. I don't see it. I just don't see it. Where did that money go to? Well, I think the money went to crypto. I think the money went to Bitcoin. I think look, if you look at how many when you and I were talking about it back in the spring, the market cap for Bitcoin is like what a little over a trillion. What is it today? So when you look at the stock market, which is that $29 trillion, guess where some of that money went to? It went to crypto, and the ETFs ate a lot of that money up too in crypto and Bitcoin. And I say crypto because I think Solana and I think Ethereum and all these are going to have ETFs behind them. So guess what? That's what they're waiting on. They're waiting on other ETFs to come out for other crypto. So no, I don't think so. But I'm not pounding the desk yet. When I pound the desk, I'm usually telling people, okay, I see the cracks. It's so clear now. It's pretty clear to me now. I'm not gonna lie to you, but I'm not pounding the desk yet. And everybody knows I pounded the desk right after COVID. The COVID run, I pounded the desk to get the hell out of the market. I did a little bit, but didn't get completely out. It hurts. I'm not pounding the desk yet, so don't nobody go
Yep.
freaking running around. But I am saying that we gotta find alpha, and there's no alpha to me right now.
Right. No. Yeah. Like I said, the only theory that I had that made any, that I saw out there that could even, give me any reason to have sort of a bullish view was that small caps and others will move up as the Mag 7 loses some of its money out, that people will look to put it somewhere else.
Right.
And like you said, the the draw of crypto, but it also worries me, that does give me a little bit of forbearance about the crypto market, though, because that retail trader that only has 4% cash left, where they usually raise their cash first, and maybe this is a question more than an answer. In the past, it's been by selling off their crypto. Number one, it's usually
Yeah.
24/7. If you're nervous at 10 o'clock at night, you can sell it, all that kind of stuff. Do you think they'll still do that? Or do you think
I think
now
they
they
did.
think crypto is on its way up and no, I'm not selling. That's my alpha.
Buy on the rumor, sell the news. The old adage. You saw that. You saw the run yesterday. It happened right here live on the show, where we went from about 10, I don't know, 105 something to 108, and guess what? We're right back to 104 and a half. So the run up, the sell off, the profit taking, all of that stuff happened. And here's what the real issue is. It didn't just happen in an overnight. It happened in a few hours, right? That's the difference here in crypto. That when you look at it from the perspective of ETFs and ultra ETFs here, on gold or whatever, it's only three times, all right, three X's. In crypto, you can do 100X and
100x.
300X,
We
and
pointed it out
nutty
yesterday, all
stuff,
the
right?
100x out there.
Right. So
I will
it's
point
pretty
out, I don't
fast.
know if you saw, I posted in our Slack that the Bitcoin ETFs now hold more money under management than all the gold ETFs. So I got to
Yeah.
give our boy Peter Thomas a little nudge there on Slack and give him a hard time. But I know he's actually not one of the few gold guys that is not a negative Bitcoin guy. But just I think that it shows you the appetite of the retail trader, that they're looking. I think that is what one of the keys is that's where they're looking for alpha. As much as kids are buying gold as a hedge, they're still looking at Bitcoin as more of an answer there. Um,
I
you
mean,
know,
from a perspective of metal, retail seems to be buying a lot of silver too. So, um, I was buying it around $19 an ounce. Now here we are at 30 and a half. I don't have an appetite. This is a very good example of it. I had a huge appetite for silver at $19. I don't have an appetite for silver at 31. I think we're going to
well, and
50.
it hasn't moved. You
Right.
brought it up that I had it in here to keep watching for the break of
Still can't go on
35,
to 50.
because you said, it breaks this 35. In fact, you can see I have it on my screen, 35.48, and you said watch out for 50, and you sold up into this over here into this thing, and
Yep.
it's done nothing. It's just gone sideways. It's been
Right.
very range bound. Gold, I'd say the same thing there. This 26.50, it's been sort of stuck here except for that one move up since September.
That's
They
right.
haven't seen the alpha. What they've seen is they got their pump over the summer last year or this year, and now they're just sort of holding their water. But that's where, again, where I think you'll see that next jump will be. What they're doing well is they're holding their water, while people are
Correct.
moving
And
money
I
into
and I
other
think that's
things.
exactly right. I have no appetite to sell my physicals. I have an appetite to buy and sell ETFs, right?
Yep.
That's why the ETFs are there, um, to hedge against my physical. So, what do I mean by that? Physical gold or physical silver, round coins or bars or whatever. In my case, bars and coins, and gold, same thing. But look, I'm not running around the world going, oh my God, we're going to $50 silver. You've got to buy more physical silver. No way, hell, no way, right? Even when silver ran to that levels with the Hunt brothers, and of course Peter Thomas was there because he was the runner for him. You didn't see that even then, right? They were buying physical, but paper was where when there wasn't any more physical to buy, they were buying paper,
Yeah.
right? And it's the same situation here. When you buy paper, you're buying paper. And what do I mean by that? Well, in our case, right? Options are paper. You're not owning the
Yeah, you
physical,
can you
right?
can just,
Yeah.
unless there's a physical
Delivery, yes.
delivery, and there are a couple of those ETFs out there. I do want to point that out just because, again, it was, everyone knows I am pro Bitcoin. I don't want to come off as a bearish gold, because I am not. I actually think gold is a good hedge and that you
Yeah.
should have it in your portfolio along with silver. I'm not as much knowledgeable on the palladiums and the others, so I don't play in those. I stick to the two big ones. Um, so I didn't want to come off there as a, you know, Bitcoin maximalist and no gold. Yeah,
I
Bitcoin pulled back, like you said, 104,489. Good, healthy pullback. Nothing wrong with it here. And I'd be okay with it going back to 100 and staying just above 100, like 100, 250 or so is that healthy area. Anything below that is a bigger correction that you need to be a little bit worried about. But anything above that keeps us nice and healthy here. Like I said, it was a good day for crypto yesterday with, they're not going, Caroline, and I forget her last name, is not going to be back. I have it here. Is not going to be back as SEC commissioner, as one of the commissioners, and that is extremely strong for crypto because she was the only commissioner that voted, including Gensler. Did not even do that. Voted against the Bitcoin ETFs when they made their final
Don't let the door hit your
approvals.
butt on the way out. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And again, another one that I had a laugh, because, the Winklevoss brothers and Brian Armstrong told her, great way to sabotage your career because, now, being on the wrong side of that is not going to play out well for Sherrod Brown and some of these folks, Gary
Right.
Gensler, like you said. They'll be able to go into education, maybe higher education. Stanford, MIT are always looking for former Fed chiefs and things like that. But that's about all you got left because even the banks are scared of you now. So, Steve, as we
I,
head
I
into today here, Fed, like I said, I mean, if the market moves today on the Fed, then we've got a huge, even a bigger problem, in my opinion, because, if they go up, if they raise, if they cut a quarter point and it moves the market, then you got to really start saying, what have people been doing, thinking, what's going on, right?
yeah, I don't. I mean, that whole thing is priced into the market. We already know that. Nor is it. I don't even know. I haven't even looked. 99% chance of a rate cut today of 25 basis points. I haven't even looked.
Yeah. I
Um,
didn't even bother because it's
yeah.
it's so baked in. So that part I haven't even bothered there. As we
UK has
were
been halted here in UKK.
Nuke was one on my list here this morning, and
There you go.
UKK. Let's see,
78%.
that
There
could
you
be
go.
getting stopped to the downside though, because they had already mooned up earlier. No, it's an upside stop here. So here you go. That's a $21 one. I do want to keep an eye
7 million
here.
shares traded hands on a $61 million market cap. So right now, the company has traded 3 times the worth of the company. That's the nuttiness of what's going on here, right? So yeah,
We got a few others that are running here so far. Want to see LITM moving down, moving back up right now. This is one that's interesting to me. We were looking a little bit earlier at PLRZ. That one jumped above VWAP. So did you, Steve? You seen a stop on PLRZ by any chance? PLRZ.
no.
Come on,
but up
Trina, will you catch it?
193%, on a market cap of 4.25 million. Volume is 44 million. That's almost 10x the volume.
Normal volume, and it just broke through VWAP here, so
And the
one that
stock is
could
worth
get a little.
$3.08. So $3.08. Yeah, I'm not touching that.
The other one I liked here to keep an eye on, CGTV here at $1.15. I said if it broke $1, look for the run. It ran up to $1.29 here and now pulling back. So CGTX did make the quick move there.
How about Tesla pulling back about 3.25% so far?
Yeah, like you said, these things got to come back down to life. I mean, there is no doubt about it. It's just a matter of when. Same thing, Microsoft down 1.5%, but look on the other side of it, Nvidia popping off at 2.31% to the high side here. So we
Yep.
are seeing that move. If we look here, tick is right around flat. Advanced decline though, finally at a positive here on at 1364. But again, if we look at the advanced decline on NASDAQ, negative 1,246. So Mag 7 is 100% carrying the NASDAQ at this point right now. QQQ is down about 0.4 of a percentage point, so we are seeing a quick little sell-off.
Cocoa at 13,210, another 2%. Oh my goodness.
Bitcoin had dropped just below 104, now moving back up above it here. Ethereum back at 38.45. So again, a lot of the exuberance with crypto has blown off overnight here. And we talked about that in these markets. You will see that exuberance. What is moving up? The VIX now at 1572. Again, we were talking about that when it was down at 13. That if you were looking for your protection there, that was the time to do it. Do want to point out DXY, Steve, broke above 107 again here, so 107.02. So again, we're seeing that continue to be the case. A little bit more interesting to me, it wasn't really a big drop by the euro leading that. What I have learned from Mr. Flanagan, who will be on at 10 o'clock here with me, is that in general, look, first thing when the DXY moves is what did the euro do? It's about 0.6 of the euro of the DXY component. What we do see, though, is a bigger move by, or bigger drop by the sterling here, down another 0.1 of a percentage point here. So that back rejected at that 127 level. Do see a slight move up by the Mexican peso. Again, that was one he was saying to keep an eye on because it's attractive with its 10% interest rates, and it's looking to break resistance here. So we'll have him on at 10 o'clock, talk to him about what's going on there. Mag 7 now, outside of NVIDIA, which is running up 3.42% here, running pretty hard. All the other Mag 7 down. Tesla down almost an exact inverse of NVIDIA. It's down 3.67 while NVIDIA is up 3.54. So they are canceling themselves out there.
This just means that retail is chasing alpha at this point, and they're going to get hurt. I feel bad in a lot of ways, but I'm not going to stop it. ARQQ here. I'm hearing talk on ARQQ again. Yep, up 12.73% here.
You see ASST up about 11.9% here also. Asset entities got a nice little day going. Bowen can't break that 175 and hold it. It's gotten to their last 3 days, but that 175 seems to be a sticking point so far.
Still running on Nvidia now, up 3.6% here. You know what? I just can't seem to.
You gonna short it here, Steve?
No, I don't. I'm just gonna keep my eye on a little bit. I really don't see anything. I really just gotta have, or
I
play.
get you. I'm looking for anything that looks exciting. I'm with you. I don't really see all that much. Melly back above 18 there. 18 there. We're seeing Micron get a little run here going into earnings. They hit earnings tonight, I believe. Yes. They're up about 2.42% here leading into that, so they are catching some wind. I wonder if they had already released. Let's see here. I might be wrong. That might have been a morning release. I'm not seeing it. So it should be tonight. Nvidia now almost up 4% on the day, and it looks like it's going to hit 4% up. So Nvidia definitely running. Micron running here too. So the chip sector is catching a little bit of a bid here this morning. Let's take a look at what we
Yeah,
have.
you're right. I'm going to short Nvidia here.
I just know your style a little bit there. That's overextended based upon what you normally look at here. I will say all of the chips except for AVGO, which we knew mooned up over the last few days, are up pretty nicely here. A lot of them up 2%, 3%. So definitely momentum in the chip sector today. Again, I don't know what anyone woke up today and was different than when they went to bed yesterday in the chip sector.
Oh, there we go. Come on, baby. Come on. Let's keep falling there.
We'll say OKLO is running here.
There we
One
go. 135.11 there now. And Nvidia keep falling a little bit farther down, just a little bit further, and I'm gonna. Wow.
nice move up by OKLO. We've been talking about this nuclear stock, and they just signed a nuclear power agreement. So again, OKLO, we've been all over that here and on the watch
And
list with
just took
Jeremy
my
Greenberg.
profit on Nvidia there. Quickly 1,000 shares, so about $500 there.
Nice move, sir.
Yeah.
And Okla has signed an agreement to provide nuclear power to data center operator Switch. So the California-based clean energy company again. Oklo, one of those ones that I've really been watching and like. Nice little move up here on that news.
It's almost like I could do it
Bitcoin
again.
holding at that 104 level. It's tried to break under it a few times, but that 104 holding up pretty well so far. It looks like it wants to challenge it again here. We'll see what we get. If I take a look here, let's see what the difference is. Down 2%. So today we could see a down day on crypto in general with we're seeing the opposite effect where IBIT and those are down a little bit more than Bitcoin is so far on the day. Fairly close, but down a little bit more. Shows that retail is selling a little bit there when it comes to the ETFs so far here today. Natural gas popped back up to 334 there, Steve. Didn't get all the way back down to our buy zone there.
305 yesterday, down to 305.
Yeah. I keep that $3 one in there. Did see the US 10-year now break below 4.4, so seeing it drop down
Qubit,
a little bit here.
QUBT, now trades at 4,000x forward revenues.
What does?
Qubit,
Wow.
QUBT,
Yeah, that's a little
up
ridiculous.
32% here. That's absolutely nuts.
UNG up half a percentage point here today, so we are seeing that move up a little bit. EVGO was one we talked about yesterday. I did like that as a little bit of a bounce back play. It is up about 1.28% here this morning. Not much of a move. JBL has lost a little bit of its steam here this morning, now up only 9.7%, had broken above 10. Seeing that to Birkenstock and FFIV all pulling back a little bit here this morning after having some nice pre-market gains. Nvidia now at 135.22.
Crap.
Keep an eye, yeah, like you said, QUPT. I had that on the pumpers here this morning. NTGR, another one here. Trying to run NTGR, which is Netgear. Gapped up nicely this morning.
I have
So
an
this one,
order.
Steve, did you see that? This is a play on the possible ban of the largest Amazon selling router by the US government. So Netgear getting a nice little pump up. This one's actually on news that could be fairly big news for them, right?
Yep. I mean,
So
who doesn't have a net? Who didn't have a Netgear back in the
yeah,
day, right?
that's why it was funny when I saw when I looked at it, I saw the name. I went, wait a second, and then it hit me in the head that I just saw an article about the fact that the government was thinking of banning the largest U.S. selling router that's sold through Amazon, which is a Chinese company, due to a raft of hacking instances with those devices. So definitely one to keep an eye on.
I'm trying to get out of Qubit here. Ah, still long Qubit.
Okay. There you go, 22.19, moving back up. I will say JBL now moving back up a little bit here, up at 147.47. Tesla is,
2260. I am out. I
there you
was long
go.
at 2211, 1,000 shares, and I am out. Nailed that one.
Nice.
Had a
There it
1,000 shares.
goes,
Oh,
there
look
it
at there,
goes.
2219 now. Oh man. Oh wow. Okay. $23 now on that sucker. It's
Another
okay. I've had a
interesting
good.
one. The Glimpse Group here is another interesting pumper to keep an eye on, Steve. VRAR. Looks like it wants to run. That nuke is getting ready back up at 46%. They want to look like they want to try to get another pump in here. There it goes. If it breaks VWAP here, you could see that run for sure.
2308 now. 2310 now a high on Qubit now.
Wow, PLRZ now up
2240.
300%. So that one that we were watching here at $3 now up over 420.
Wow. CCJ up another 1.3% today, 5413. Still, uranium plays are still out there.
Yep, they are for sure. That's a little interesting.
Tick up 250 right now.
Healthcare seeing a good day, Steve. CVS up 4.3% here.
Even
Cigna
UNH
up
is up 2.8.
5.39% here. UNH up almost 3%. Elevance up
There was an
1.17.
article in Barron's yesterday saying that the whole thing is overblown. So totally understand that.
They were beaten up definitely tremendously. So
Seeing reports that the Baltic Dry Index, and I don't want to get too sloppy here, but that sea freight index is now down about 2.4% to its lowest rate since July of 2023. That is transport of ferries and also for massive coal, grain, cargo ships going through the Suez and things of that nature. Think about it like that. 2338 now in Qubit. Wow, I missed that one. I was right there too.
yeah, these runners are running today for sure. We are seeing them
Man, I totally missed. I was
now
long on
up
that.
almost
You know what?
40%,
You know what I should have done? I
23.35.
should have put a trailing stop in. That's what I should have done. I didn't think about it.
Nuke running here, Steve. NUKK starting to run back up. 1878 had dropped down. I said, watch that VWAP just broke through it.
Yeah.
And there it goes. There it goes. 1913. Another runner here. There it goes. 1921, 1924. Watch for a return to about 21 there. Hit 21.41 earlier, so it looks like it wants to retrace towards there. Your Cubit now at 2360, Steve. 2360.
Oh man, 2380 now. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, they're pumping. They're pumping. PLRZ now up 305%. Again, these are all the ones we talked about before market opened here this morning. PLRZ now up 305 and running 426. That was at when we talked about it at 9 before 9:30 this morning. That was sitting in the 250 260 area. CGTX did not hold up. Tried to make its way back up.
2384
That one
now.
has dropped off. CGTX I would take off of your radar. I'm taking it off of my screen here. VSTE still, no, we're taking that off the radar. So some of these are fading away.
$24 now in Qubit. Wow.
I do want to point out here that, for every one qubit that runs, there's 3 or 4 of these that move in the opposite direction. So you do have to keep an eye open.
So we called the right one this morning, is that right?
Yeah, absolutely. LITM's
I am taking
dropping
it off
away
my
here.
I'm taking it off of my screen now. I don't even want to look at it anymore. Apple is having a down day
TCBP
today.
did not.
Disney's up to 150, almost 115 now. Share up
Nuke
1
at
point.
2055. Just hit 2055, moving back up.
There's Qubit sell off there. There it is.
VRAR, another one we pointed out here this morning before the open when it was trading at $1.96, now at $2.18 and moving up.
$104.3 now in Bitcoin. Just can't seem to. It's not getting the same run as yesterday. I think maybe Sailor may have taken a break today.
Yeah, they can't buy every day. 104.3. I mean, it's up. It was actually below 104. This is, since we've been open at 9:30, it's actually moving back up. So, and again, I know Zora's hoping that it bounces down a little bit here to give her another chance to rebuy in. So we'll allow her to have that chance today, maybe. Delta up about 1.5 percentage points here. That's been on a steady decline here over the last 2 weeks, 3 weeks. Starting to see a bottom here. Be interesting. We'll fill the gap to the downside if it doesn't hold here. So kind of watching that 60-32 area. Any bounce below that, you've got to think that you've got a retracement back towards that level at 51-52. What's the Mag 7 doing? So Nvidia up 3%, Tesla down 2.5%. Meta has gone positive. Again, Meta's been the sneaky one lately. Meta's been the sneaky one no one's really talking about that, hit an all-time high and holding up a real nice
I
run
mean,
around it.
I still use my Oculus, right? I bought a game the other day for my Oculus. I enjoy it. I find that and I have an Apple Vision Pro here too as well, and I do think it's interesting. I was reading an article yesterday about will AI replace your job, and the answer is no. But what was interesting, what they said, and I agree with them more than anything, because I've said this several times, is that AI will not replace you, but the person who understands AI will. You better understand how to use AI. You better have it already integrated into your life, because if you don't, you're not going to understand the future. You're not going to get it. I've said that. Believe it or not, I said that back in 1992 when the internet came around, 93. I said, look, look, the internet's not going to replace your job, but it will definitely, and make your life a lot better. And probably you better know how to use the internet. And of course, today, I mean, who doesn't? Well, here we are.
Right?
But the same thing's going to happen with AI. I think people who aren't on AI are going to, well, they'll be left out. That's just all the way to it.
Yeah, I can't argue with that fact at all. It's going to change, and those that adopt AI the same way, those that learned how to use Excel first, those that learned how to use HTML, are going to be the leaders. If you learn how to use
Right.
it for your advantage, it's going to make an advantage for you.
There you
So
go. Nvidia's a little bit of selling there in Nvidia now. I had a feeling.
Tesla bouncing back
130.
up here also now at
Yeah.
471 after dropping down there to that 620 level or so.
Gold still sitting
JBL's
here,
retracing a little
2238.
bit here from the highs of the day. Same thing, Nvidia from the highs of the day has retraced a little bit here. Bitcoin back down at 104. So, like I said, that's where the battle seems to be today, right at that 104 level. Do see the Dow up about a quarter of a percentage point here and RUD up 0.39. So, seeing some of the small cap in the US small cap index up about 4/10 of a percentage point. SPY has gone positive here slightly. QQQ is negative still. And again, advanced decline positive today at about 924. So first positive day we're seeing here, advanced decline in a bit. So good to see that move up. It's good to see a little bit of momentum coming back in here, hopefully today. WTI back above 70.
Tick down 317 now. So, the market just seems to be waiting on Powell today. And so am I.
Yeah, chips are running, and that's about it. Chips and healthcare are leading the way. Chips and healthcare are leading the way today. It's a weird mix, right?
That's right.
Not seeing any general sector getting tremendously beat up either. That's sort of what I was trying to take a look for here. Sort of the biggest decliner, XLY.
Yeah, Nvidia just struggling there at the 135 handle. It's really struggling.
DXY back below 107 here, so a little bit of a move to the downside on the DXY. See what we get here.
Dow's only up 100 points and the Nasdaq just going negative here. So yeah,
Bitcoin back up? No, back above 104. Gold
I think
lost.
Bitcoin goes.
Go ahead. Sorry.
I think Bitcoin goes back up. I think Sailor is just waiting for a little bit chill out for the afternoon. I think we go right back on up. I mean, I would not be short the Bitcoin right now.
No, I don't argue that fact at all. As you know,
Short term,
here,
I guess, but I
yeah,
just
yeah, there'll be
you never
pullbacks,
know.
there'll be stuff, but yeah, we're headed up in general more than everything leads to up more than down. 10-year continuing to drop a little bit here this morning.
Yeah, yeah.
Let's see here. I did see Mr. Flanagan come in, then he disappeared. Let me make sure everything's okay with him here. Steve, what do as we get here till 10 o'clock, what do you think? What's your day looking like? We finishing up, down, sideways?
You know, I wouldn't even prognosticate today because quite frankly, it's all about the Fed, what he says. I've said it several times. I said it yesterday. It's all about the purple tie.
I was about to ask you, are you buying if you see him step up to the plate with his purple tie?
If he puts a red tie on now, all bets are off. The market's going to go sky high. But no, I think look, he's trying to do his best to not spook the markets. And we joke about purple tie and whether he brings his briefcase in or his hands have it on the right hand has the sheets and the left hand is picking his nose. I don't bet on whether or not whatever Powell has to say. I don't, because quite frankly, we've watched him be wrong for so long now and play catch up for so long. It's a broken record, and
Come
you know
on, he's
what?
patting himself on the back. You can't say that. He's doing great. Just ask him.
So is Christine Lagarde, and what's that say for you? I mean,
Hey, don't get Mr. Flanagan all riled up here before we get him in. Let's
bring him. You
not
know
get
what?
too
Is he going to
carried
be
away.
in here? Bring him in. Let's have a chat. I got a few
Let's
minutes
do
here.
this. Stephen Flanagan, our FX specialist. How you doing today?
Good. Good morning, guys. Yeah, I mean, our central bankers are so lost. They're using models that are looking backwards. There's no more forward guidance to us. So they're all data dependent, which, we already have lived through that data. So
Right.
we don't need them to be telling us, that higher for longer or whatever.
I when I go overseas, I have an interpreter, right? I mean, is he trying to interpret to me what the markets are? Because to me, it feels like the market's telling me exactly what's going on, right? I mean, the price dictates, right? We know that. But when I look at it from the perspective of Powell, I'm going to say that there's going to be a new gauge of understanding Powell, and that's I'm going to call it the sweat index. How much does he sweat when he's up there on that? On the dais, because I tell you what, the last time he was up there, he was taking some serious questions, and he was ready to run out of the room. To be honest, he was very nervous because he wasn't sure. And we've seen Powell in the past have most of those members in line, but there is some grumblings now. Am I right or wrong that don't really want to cut anymore?
I agree, Steve, totally. And I'm going to watch for that new sweat index.
So we're off the tie index and we're onto the sweat index now?
I
I
think
mean,
I think so. And one of the interesting things, Steve, is, and that's why I always watch probably a guy you like too, Goolsby. Uh,
oh sure,
Oh
um,
yeah.
yep, this guy is very into the new world dynamics of marketplaces and their automation. And markets are reacting instantaneously to new data. Every new data piece
yeah.
becomes a new weighting, so that's why the markets are really the forward guidance now.
Yeah, Steve Goolsby is a good old Chicago boy, and you have to question, he's coming with Obama. How does he fit in this new administration? I mean, I know he's not part of it, but how does he fit in? Will people listen to him?
You know, yes, he was part of the Obama administration, but the guy's an academic and he's probably got a better grip
He
on
does.
market structure today than anybody else. So I don't think that that's going to have any effect.
Okay, I like to hear that. It's good because I think one of the things I did like about the previous Trump administration is he did listen to other opinions. He wasn't closed minded, but there is one thing that we do have to ask that he is closed-minded, seems to be a little bit, is these tariffs and these sanctions. Is he going to go through with this, or is this just a bunch of hot air, Steve?
Steve, I think in general it's hot air. I
Okay,
think it's a
great.
simple negotiating point. I think he's got too many people around him, including the Treasury Secretary nominee, that would be very, in his ear, giving him that guidance.
Good. I like that. All right, well, let's talk about it. Let's go down south the border. We're talking about immigration, dollar mex, peso. That's a lot of margaritas. I've been talking about that for a while, looking at 2011 here. Haven't seen that in a while.
Yeah, that's true. My theme for today was, we know money moves first, so buy dollars and wear diamonds. Uh, you know,
I love
Whoa.
it. I love it.
you're looking at the MEX situation, and it is still a 10% currency. They do have their central bank meeting this week.
Yeah.
We do expect a 0.25% cut, so it's still 10% interest rate. So I don't think that the top side is very high, 10.20, 10.25, because I think that there's a lot of money that's willing to jump into a long MEX position. But south of the border, Steve, look at the dollar Brazil. All of a
Oh,
sudden,
yeah, totally real, yeah.
the situation is falling apart as the real hits all-time highs.
Yeah.
And that's something that at 613.75, having hit a high now all time 620 and a half, this is something that we need to watch very carefully. Howard and I ended up last on Monday with talking about the emerging market debt in the world
Yeah.
and the massive payments that are beginning to come forward. So I was looking for you, Steve, going, hey, we could be back into a somewhat Latin American debt
Hey,
crisis.
I'm gonna grab you. We'll go down to Carnival, man. You and me go down to Brazil, and we'll go live it up. I mean, I think that's what's going on, right?
Yeah, I'm looking at the dollar here across a variety of currency pairs as beginning to almost be the de facto play. It's not as if the US dollar in and of itself, although the fundamentals are strong, it's that the weakness in the other outlying fundamentals are increasing. So it's the dollar by de facto.
Right. You know, when I look at the dollar in general right now, I look at it as a proxy of the United States, but it doesn't seem that a lot of other countries are looking at the United States as going, oh my gosh, they have their shit together. And right, pardon my French a little bit, but the truth of the matter is, I don't think that countries are very happy with us right now. We've talked about, embargoes and kicking people out of the country, and we're talking about, putting massive tariffs, not just not maybe little tariffs, big tariffs on things. That are we isolating ourselves and then becoming a strong dollar and isolating ourselves to the rest of the world?
I think, Steve, that the populist movement is taking root here in the US. And I don't necessarily think we're isolating ourselves in
Okay,
as much as we are taking a very pro US stance. And I mean that in that on the backs of the United States taxpayer, much of this globalist idea has been paid for. And I think that there's a bit of a pause saying, hey, we've got to be getting, now that we've got a business leadership, we need to have some sort of return on our dollar.
yeah,
And
agreed.
I think when you look globally, I don't think that the globalist approach is giving the populace in the world much success and much benefit.
Right.
So that's the point I think is changing. I think that the political elite are, yes, very much looking down at the United States and not happy.
But if you look at it from the perspective of, okay, so Trump says he wants manufacturing back in the United States. The other day, he was talking about cars being brought back to the United States. But if our dollar is at 107, it becomes very expensive to export it. Nobody wants to buy an expensive Ford or Hyundai. They'd rather have cheap imports. Our dollar's strong. Import the stuff. To me, a strong dollar means more imports, not more exports.
That's very true, Steve. However, the slash on that is you can come in as a European manufacturer, build a plant here,
Ah,
hire Americans,
there you
and
go.
and we'll give you a tax break, right? He talked about if it's $1 billion investment, he's going to bring your tax rate down to 15%, which is probably close to the lowest in the world.
Close the world, yeah. Right. Okay, then you are pro Trump, and look, when I look at it from a perspective, I just had a long chat with Japan last night with their Tokyo's government and spoke to Jetro, and to me, it feels like the economy just isn't doing so well in Japan right now, and that Japan is hurting. And I'm looking at the yen right now. I mean, the dollar yen is wow. One was it 155 last I looked. All right, so 153.75 and 8 pips there. So
That's right.
wow, the dollar is still pushing against the yen here. So they're one of our major trading partners, right?
Yeah, and then just look at the meeting with SoftBank, Steve.
Yep.
Mazen-san,
Right?
well, Trump said they didn't want 100 billion, he wants 200 billion out of him.
Put them right on the spot. But you know what? Underneath of the covers, Steve, I really do like the yen. You've got BOJ on Thursday morning tonight. And I think BOJ could take this opportunity based on a Fed rate cut of tweaking and increasing their rates, catching the whole market off guard and dropping the yen. I can see a high of 155.70, 156, but then you're into Bank of Japan territory where they intervene, and they don't intervene small. They come in with 10, 20 billion dollars. So they're serious about this level. a tweak of interest rates tonight isn't going to drive their economy lower. In fact, there are some green shoots of growth in Japan. And then let's talk about this new merger, Honda and Nissan being talked
Yes.
Yeah.
about. You're looking at a colossal company to offset Nissan, the other large Japanese company. This could be very, very interesting news, which could bring quite a bit of money back into Japan. So I'm very bullish on Japan. I think that they are the ones who've got it right, and they have not reacted with the super high interest rates. And I think that's where I would be looking outside of the US. Japan is a play. In fact, I just looked at EWJ as a ticker.
I mean, Howard, I think we should wrap that one up for short. I mean, this is great because
Yeah.
I agree. Japan, I have been moving a lot of money into Japan and Latin America. I like buying things when they're low and not when they're high, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
That's absolutely right. You've got Bank of England tomorrow. The European, France and Germany. These are the core Euro countries, and we've got no confidence votes. This is not a good situation here. So I'm looking down the road. Yeah, maybe I'll take a look at the European and the UK. But right now, I'm focused on the US, number one, big time. And I think that Japan slash followed by China are going to be the next areas that you want to look at.
Okay. Well, I love that. I'm going to run out. Howard, you can take over. But thanks, Steve, as always. And bye, Japan. I like that.
There we go. Good luck, Steve.
Okay, Mr. Flanagan, you've hit a lot of the points that I had for you. You know, I mentioned to Steve earlier what will worry me the most today is if we see a big move after the 25 basis point move happens.
Well,
Would you agree with that? If we
yeah,
see things move, something's broken somewhere.
that's exactly the point we're beginning to get to, the fragility of the system. And the system, that's where you want to look at foreign exchange, because the world is in a balancing, a seesaw. And the fragility of that, potentially, Fed cuts a 0.25% and says we're reducing the number of rate decreases next year, which I think will be wrong. But that would be send signals that the dollar becomes a higher interest rate currency pair,
Right.
especially against the euro dollar. I'm looking for parity on
Right.
that play.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
another
That's
another
yeah. I
thing,
mean, that's the only thing that scares me today. I think otherwise, it should hopefully be a nothing burger of a sort of announcement. Like I said, people like Steve and myself looking maybe what tie is he wearing. The other thing I brought up earlier today is what I'll be looking for. Is he looking to put his hand across the aisle, so to speak, to our president elect? Does he sort of change his tenor towards that relationship? What does he talk about? What does he say? That's sort of what I'll be looking for. Is he start to toe the company line?
I couldn't agree more, and I do think he will definitely be very accepting to the Trump administration. And why? Because a pro-growth policy takes the interest rate cutting pressure off of his back.
Right. It
We
isn't.
we
Yeah. It doesn't become the first thing that everyone talks about.
right, which is the opposite point in Europe, and that's where Europe is, where the governments have no more fiscal latitude, and they're turning to the central bank saying, "Help us."
Right, right. Yeah, so that's what, that was my sort of takeaways that I'm looking for today. I do think that he does that, that he's more amiable to, what the new administration's asking of him or, sort of putting in place. So I think it will give him more levers to use, and we'll see how that works out. The other thing that I've noticed and talked a little bit more with Steve about over the last couple of days is what you find very quickly, right, is that especially if you live in DC like I have for years, is that, these people, they'll reach right across the line, right? We've seen Bezos, um, you know, give $1 million to the inauguration. We're seeing these companies, put their hands across the table, show up at Mar-a-Lago, so to speak, kiss the ring. And it's what we see in D.C. You don't see Elizabeth Warren having dinner with Ted Cruz, but you see these folks together all the time. It's a lot of rhetoric on TV. Just for those that don't know, these folks are friendly to each other. If not friendly, they're friends.
That's right. Yep, that's very true. And it is especially so given a pro-business government right now that you'll quickly see follow the money. Money
Yep,
moves first. Again, same
absolutely.
thing in Washington, right? But Howard, one thing we you're talking about this fragility and what we can expect afterwards. Watch the dollar Canada. Talk about a sneaky Pete here and jumping up behind us at 143.10. You've
Yep,
now got a situation where the Trudeau government could be quickly having a no confidence vote yet again, right? There's
right.
been several attempts. Now, if all of a sudden your northern neighbor catches on with this populist movement, this becomes very pro growth. And that's something I want to keep a very close eye on, especially, given that the finance minister just resigned. That could
I
be,
saw that. I
yeah,
have to ask: is Canada the Western Hemisphere's France?
that's a nice analogy. I love Canada, but that
So
analogy
hey,
does.
listen. When I was 18 and the drinking age was still 18, I grew up in the Northeast. We took that bus up to Montreal. I was a big fan of Peel's pubs and the spots up
Yep,
there. I won't tell you the other names of the places I went to,
yep.
but I just wonder that question. We're seeing very similar where you have very outspoken leaders that sort of don't care about what their elected says about them and very cavalier in their sort of ways, and where their finance ministers or prime ministers seem to drop at a dime a dozen.
That's
Your
right.
longevity there is about as good as being a leader of Hamas.
And when you have a political leader such as Trudeau in power for so long,
Yeah.
the past becomes back to bite you.
Yep.
And so I would think that his government is going to crumble. And dollar Canada's at 5-year highs right now. But one of the things that I wanted to just get out there to you is that the Dixie dollar index 107. If
Yeah.
we break above 107.20, I think we're going to retest the high of
That 108.
108.07.
Yeah, that's I
But,
have it in here. The other thing I
but
noticed I was
Howard,
going to
what?
ask you is I've noticed that it's not the euro moving it so much today. It seems like to me.
Okay.
I've learned from you the first thing I should look at if the DXY is moving is what is the euro doing 6/10 of the makeup, and I'm not seeing that. I did see the big move by the sterling though in the negative direction.
That's right. In sterling, you've got interest rates expected to maybe be cut 0.25%, but based on their inflation, another one, it was up slightly last month. Now people are saying they're not going to cut. Okay, well, if anybody's looking at the growth in the UK, it's crumbling and crumbling fast.
Fast.
So the UK better get out there in front of this and start cutting rates. And I think that there's a general perception that they're losing control in the UK and that you could see, remember, a new budget, $40 billion in tax
Taxes.
increases.
Yeah.
So this is substantial in an economy that's weakening. So why not see the Dixie 108.07? And once you get above a 108.40, which would be the ultimate top, what's the objective? 114, 115. You could end
Wow.
up in a dollar blowout move here in a de facto play because where else can you go?
Right, like you said, you can't really, outside of Canada, there isn't much else that's following. We're just killing every other currency basically at this point.
That's
Outside of
right. You,
Japan, Japan holding its own. Otherwise, they're crumbling sort of at our feet. Is that something, you know, do you think that though is going to cause more? I mean, I just look at what's the difference between Main Street and Wall Street right now. You know, you go to the grocery store, you look at cattle futures, they're just through the roof. You know, what is that going to mean for inflation of food in the next few months? You know, for me is worrisome. I also know, because I live here in egg country, the bird flu's been around again. So they just killed millions and millions and millions of chickens in this area. Um, you know, so those you know, all that together, it seems to be, it could be those tectonic plates you've talked about.
It could be, and in a longer term situation, it would be very bad. But if over the course of 2025 you have a move up and then a simmering of the move, that's not going to have any effect. And again, I go back to a level when dollar yen, when I started trading, was 300 to the dollar.
Wow. Yeah, no, absolutely. You know, these things move over time. They definitely evolve, as we know. So we'll keep an eye on that. I seem to have lost you here, Steve. Uh-oh, give me 1 second here to try to bring back Mr. Flanagan. Oh, I did lose him. Well, we were at the end. I was going to ask him one more question. We will have him back on Friday, so I will definitely get that across the question there. Everybody, have a fantastic day. Do keep in mind I'm back at 12 o'clock here at noon with Agnieszka Wood, our trading mindset coach. If you haven't tuned in for our 12 o'clock sessions, really you want to. She really has some great ideas that help you get yourself ready for your trading day, stop a little bit of the anxiety that's involved with trading, and, you know, really get you psychologically ready for your trading day. And then we, of course, have the legend himself, Mr. Bauer, back in at 1 o'clock. He's going to talk about expected value today. Do you know how to calculate it? And it's something that all traders should be understand. Scott has been working a lot on this week on teaching option traders how to figure out stuff without using a calculator that's built in, so that you understand it better. So thank you so much, and we will see you all